All right, it's an interesting one to consider. Is stress going straight to our guts? Well, there's research that outlines the correlation between high stress and wider waistlines. And joining me now is Kate Save, dietitian from Be Fit Food, to help us understand a little bit more about what's going on. It's good to have you with me. Why is chronic stress so dangerous for our health? Tell us what you've seen.
Well, in the past, when we felt stress, we'd get this response of our adrenaline, or our noradrenaline particularly, which would be when we were really terrified of something.
Right, heightened.
Yes, and that response then would lead to some adrenaline coming out, eventually cortisol, but then it would all go away. And what's happening nowadays is that we have this heightened perception of to meet our expectations, and when things don't meet our expectations, it's not a lion that's coming after us, we're coming after ourselves. And we're causing this really stressful environment. But the risks of that it's huge. It's our metabolism, it can make us gain weight. It's our immune system, it can cause inflammation in the body. So it really, apart from causing health conditions, you've got diseases that it can invoke as well. So even heart attacks and strokes, it's linked to a number of metabolic conditions.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about that fight or flight sort of response, and a lion's not chasing us, but those deadlines are creeping up and things like that, and the silly little things we worried about. Not that everything's silly, but why do some people react differently to stress than others, perhaps, who might, start smoking or drinking or doing all those sorts of things in order to compensate?
We all know someone who doesn't stress at all, and then we know people that are absolute stress heads, where you can see their eyes are just bulging out of their skull because they constantly feel like that. So there's two key things that we know. One is life experiences. So if people have had trauma growing up, or perhaps they've had something happen to them, or perhaps they work in a place where they're exposed to crime, or maybe they've been in a plane crash, or work in the military, those sorts of things can actually affect our response to stress because of our experiences. And secondly, it's our genetics. So some of us are wired, I guess, to produce more of the hormones, to be more sensitive to these stress hormones as well. So some people won't get the same response to those hormones because they don't have as many receptors compared to someone else. So they'll feel more anxious, maybe more upset about it, and unable to control that.
I've been described as sensitive in the past. But anyway, let's talk about how stress makes us gain weight. What's the connection there that you've seen?
Oh, it is scary. And some of the science out there, when they actually look at people that, say if you're extremely stressed, sometimes you don't eat at all, right? But what they find is when they've tested people that haven't been eating because they're so stressed, they still have belly fat. So all of the weight that they're storing, very little weights, come from the rest of their body and gone to their belly fat. So what this stress is doing, when we're stimulating cortisol, we're then boosting, we're letting fat out of the bloodstream, then we're sucking it back up into the wrong areas like the belly. We're actually breaking down muscles. So chronic stress will make us break down muscle for energy and then convert that into fat. So what you'll find is people become less muscular and have more fat around that abdominal area. So they take it out of these safe spaces, so under the skin, and push it into this gut area. And then we've got high blood sugar levels. And then from the blood sugar levels, you get high insulin, the fat storage hormone. Then all of a sudden you start craving fatty, salty, sweet
Comfort
food. Comfort food. And there is a hypothesis around that, because the comfort food actually increases the dopamine, which is our reward center, our pleasure center, and it eases the stress. Meanwhile, it is destroying our health.
Well, it's just a double-edged sword, isn't it? So let's talk a little bit about some of the remedies we can do, or what we can do to reduce stress. And I guess if stress is imminent in our lives, how can we avoid gaining that additional weight?
Well, one of the things that we can definitely do, apart from the deep breathing and meditation for those who participate in it, is be really aware of what we're eating too, because we know that people that are highly stressed, that have more processed foods, actually convert more body fat as well, because it's an easy pathway. But something else we can do is actually go out into nature. And I found this fascinating when I read a study the other day that said that the trees and the plants actually produce a chemical that when we inhale it, calms our nervous system.
So go for a walk in the woods is a
It's a real thing, and there's something about actually looking at nature as well that calms the brain. So we've got input going in through our eyes that is calming for our brain, and then we've got vapor coming from the forest, the trees, going in through our body that is calming the nervous system.
Yeah, I'm very much overdue for a visit to the forest. But let's talk about nutrients and foods important for supporting our body during times of stress, because stress is inevitable. It's going to happen. Take us through a little bit about what we can do.
Absolutely. There are a heap of vitamins and minerals that are critical for that stress response. Some of the main ones are our B vitamins, particularly B5. We've also got magnesium, manganese, zinc, selenium. So all of these, to find them in food is getting them through your plant-based foods, particularly nuts, seeds, legumes and vegetables, as well as shellfish, seafood and meat and poultry and eggs. So it does come back to an unprocessed diet. So all of those things are really rich in our natural unprocessed foods.
Absolutely. It's interesting to talk about, and I continue to be astounded by the way the human body works and, of course, what you bring to the table, Kate. I want to thank you for joining us on the program and, of course, look forward to speaking to you again soon.
My pleasure.